Hey y'all, this is Nicholas Curtis here, and I want to teach you how to do an effective paper. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you that these are going to be the instructions of like every instructor, but I can tell you this: of all my college experience, of all my high school experience, I know this is how I know how to write a paper, and I'm here to teach the people how to write effective papers. But I'm going to teach you a couple of points, and I'll be real brief here on how to write an effective paper. 1. Do as your instructor tells you to do. That's pure and simple. I shouldn't have to explain that much to you. If your instructor tells you to write your thesis statement this way, do it. If your paper tells you to do it this way, then I recommend you do it this way. But if you have one of those crazy instructors who actually doesn't tell you to do this paper, just write a paper. Just follow by what I'm going to say in the next point, which is organize your paper and flow your paper effectively. This includes your argumentation and your central argument. When you and pretty much write your actual paper in stages. You don't have to do your like in high school, in middle school, they actually make you do your paper like a here's your rough draft, revise and edit, and then do your conclusion. You don't have to do it that way. You can write 7 drafts if you want, as long as your paper goes from A to B. And make sure your paper's organized. I mean, every book, everything I've read has an introduction, and it has 3 main points, or 4 or 5 main points, or whatever, and then conclusion. And a point doesn't have to be an argument. It can be like, if you're just informing me how to make waffles, a point can be like, step 1, turn on the oven. But it can, all the body is pretty much why your thesis statement is. And then aside from your introduction, your body and conclusion, every paper is going to have a central argument. Imagine a paper just like a tree outside. A tree has its roots, has its trunk, has its branches and leaves and stuff, and fruit and stuff. Your actual thesis statement is your trunk and your roots. It's pretty much what your paper's about. It's a simple sentence or two about what your paper's about. The actual best way to organize your actual paper is to start off with a thesis statement, a simple thesis statement. It's a claim plus a reason. It's not just a claim like for example, my actual mom is old. It's a claim plus a reason, such as my actual mom is old because she's like 55 years old. That's a very weak thesis statement. I wouldn't use that if you're but the actual strength and weakness of your thesis statement is dependent on the rest of your paper too. And I advise you, if you're writing a paper, have a working thesis statement. And start off with a simple argument, such as my actual mom is old, like that, like a central claim, and then brainstorm reasons of why. For example, she's old, she's sick, she gets sick a lot, she gets discounts at McDonald's, she gets independent citizen funds. Brainstorm reasons throughout your paper. And then when you get a feel of what your paper's about overall, and then start making your thesis statement, and then it's pretty much set in the stone, or what you call slate in the stone. I might say my actual mom is old because the actual cultural norms state that she is, or something like that, or because according to her culture, society sees her as old. That's a good way to do it. And then that should be what your paper's about in one sentence. and put it somewhere in your paper at the end of your introduction, and then conclude, and then introduce your thoughts of your paper. You know, and when you organize your paper, make sure that each part prepares itself for the other. Like a book, you know, every book I read, each chapter prepares itself for the next chapter. You know, if you're doing a how-to paper, make sure the actual steps are in order. You know, after you do your thesis statement, you know, you'll know what you're going to talk about and provide all the facts and details and opinions, what you're going to say, and make sure in your argumentation it's proper argumentation and it's proper notation, and cite your sources too. The worst thing you can have is logical fallacies. Your actual reader will be thrown off on your paper if it's not clear enough. You know, if your argument's not clear, if it's not proper, and if your paper's not clear, and if it has a bunch of spelling mistakes, the actual reader's going to be like, "What? I can't read this." And if it's not clear enough, they're like, I'm confused. I don't understand this." So when you're writing your paper, think before you write. A good tip is to think before you write, and write your paper, and make it flow from one thing to the next. That way, the actual reader can actually follow along with your paper and understand your paper. That's why in English class, grammar mistakes and pretty much syntax mistakes and spelling mistakes are very highly discouraged, because the reader wants to understand your paper. And overall, as I've said, make sure to have your good thesis statement, and make sure to organize your paper, and make sure it flows, and make sure your reader can understand where your goal is on your, and do as your instructor says. If it's to inform us about it. If it's to persuade us about it. If you're just doing a research paper, tell us about it, and tell us why you're doing the research. And also in every paper, always provide your own analysis throughout the paper, not just in one section. Always provide it throughout the paper, to where you're doing the work. You're not just, you know, listing facts and reasons and stuff. But provide your own analysis throughout the paper. Remember, you're doing the paper, not them. Alright, you're not just restating facts. The actual worst thing that people do is that they restate the facts on the paper. They get some bad grades because of it. Remember, it's your own work. Make sure to provide your own insight. And lastly, try to avoid the pronoun I a lot. Always try to use third person a lot in your papers. That's just a tip. You know. And try to discourage from using passive voice and use active voice. Like, use passive voice whenever your paper's passive, and use it active when it's active. And make sure to use your actual words professionally too. You know, don't use like, oh hey, what a minute. You know, always be constructive in your papers and write it like you would a pro would write it. I recommend, and if you want to actively be a good writer, read. That way, you'll actually get an idea of what to write, you know, and how to write. Because when you read, you'll know, you'll be familiar with all the different writing styles. So, and I hope this helped you out, and have a good day. And adios.